This happened to me about 7 years ago when I had just started high school. The school I was at was about a 10-minute walk from my little brother's school, so every day I would walk up there to meet him. It was a pretty safe walk along a main road with lots of sunlight and cars, but not many people most of the time. Occasionally, you would get some other school children or some runners, and some old people walking to their apartments, and of course, the people waiting at the bus stop. The bus stop was halfway between my school and my brother's, and there were only ever about 2 people waiting there. One day I was walking up to meet my brother, and I had left my headphones at home that day, so I couldn't listen to music while walking, which is what I normally did every day. So I was just walking and enjoying the sun and the pretty plants and gardens. When I reached the bus stop, I noticed an old man sitting on the bench waiting for a bus. I passed him and didn't think much of it because he seemed harmless. I'd say this guy was about 60 to 65 years old, pretty short and not very fit. As soon as I walked past him, I heard him get up, but there was no bus coming. Maybe he was checking the timetable, but no, of course not. I turned my head to check, and this guy was like 5 steps behind me with his eyes stuck on me. I started to speed walk, but then I heard him speed up too. I looked behind me, and sure enough, he was speed walking as well. I was scared. He hadn't taken his eyes off me, and now, whenever I look back, he was giving me this creepy, devilish grin. There was nobody else around, and I was about 200 meters from my brother's school. I decided to bolt. I looked behind me, and the old guy was running. He was faster than I'd expected him to be. Every time I looked back, he was staring at me and smiling. I was almost in tears. I was so scared I wasn't going to make it. Now, I know you might think that a young teenage girl could outrun a man in his 60s, but with a school bag weighing like 20 kilos and a messed up knee from gymnastics, I was about as equipped to run as he was. By this point, I could see my brother's school and some kids leaving. I was kind of relieved, and I thought the old man would ease up and notice that other people were around. But no, what does this guy do? He starts yelling to the people saying, "My granddaughter, she is running away from me. Get her. She's in trouble." All while giving me this evil grin. I then stopped because I'd come to a massive road and didn't want to get hit by a car. The guy got close enough to grab my bag and told me to stop being such a little brat and that he was going to win and take me away. I screamed and ran for my life, not caring about the cars. I got into my brother's school and looked back to see the guy jogging towards me. I ran into the main building and told the receptionist what had happened. She had a look outside and pointed to a man waiting outside the school gate, moving his head around as if he was trying to spot someone. It was him, and she told me to wait with her while she called the police. The man walked away after about 10 minutes, but the police did catch him, and we found out that he had been offering candy to kids from my brother's school and trying to get them to come home with him in the afternoons. I walked on the other side of the road from then on, avoiding the bus stop and anyone I passed. This happened when I was about 17 or 18. There was a period of time when I would head to Capital Community College in Hartford, CT, just to hang with friends during the summer. We'd sit in the cafe or the game room and play fighting games. I usually didn't go home until around 9 or 10. It was pretty dark by then. The CT transit buses would line up in front of the old State House, and my friends and I would go on our individual buses, splitting ways. At the time, I only knew of one bus route, the Vine Street route. Vine Street intersects with Love Lane, and the surrounding area is mostly forested. Further up Vine Street, there's an old folks' home and I believe a rehab clinic. The bus stops at the intersection of Vine Street and Love Lane before continuing up Vine Street. At the time, I was a fearless little tomboy who wasn't afraid of much. The bus, with a few other people on it, and myself, was driving down Vine with no issue. There was a certain fellow on the bus, who looked a bit disheveled and all, but I didn't pay him any mind. I mean, it's Hartford for God's sake. My stop came, I pulled the little indicator, and got off. This guy also got off as well. He took the back exit and I took the front. I minded my business, thanked the bus driver for a ride, and went on my way. I walked up the slowly inclining hill and heard the bus beginning to slowly pull off. The man was behind me and was going in the same direction I was. I have short legs, but I walk pretty fast. Still, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. The bus driver turned onto Love Lane, headed our direction, and stopped next to me. The guy behind me started shouting for attention. The bus driver gave me a look. "I'll take you where you need to go. I don't trust that guy." And I climbed onto the bus, giving a simple thank you. The guy was now waving and shouting at the bus, and I couldn't help but look and wonder, what if I had just kept walking? What if the bus driver hadn't decided to drive me home? He went up Love Lane, turned onto my street, and dropped me off in front of my complex before heading onto Tower Ave and continuing towards Vine Street to complete his route. I guess the only thing I have to say is, don't be a girl and walk in a wooded area, because something bad could happen. This happened when I was in my early 20s. I was working in a retail store in a mall, but there weren't enough hours, so I asked if there was anything else I could do. My boss told me that the location at another mall needed more help, so I could go there on my weekend. I decided to take the bus route that was a bit longer, but didn't require any transfers, so I got up early and caught the earliest one I could. The bus ride was fairly normal. I got to see parts of my city I hadn't seen before. I did notice that the bus eventually went into a dingier neighborhood. There was more trash everywhere, abandoned buildings, houses, cars, etc. I noticed it, but I felt safe on the bus and knew my destination was in a nice neighborhood. At some point, an elderly lady got on the bus, and I noticed that no one was getting up to offer her a seat, so I gave her mine and went to hold the pole next to the side door of the bus. While riding, I remember looking at a guy next to me and asking if he knew about how much longer it would take to get to my stop. Before he answered, someone hit the buzzer to get off. The doors next to me opened, and then I felt hands on my free arm, grabbing me and pulling me. I reflexively clenched up because I generally don't like any physical contact with strangers outside of a greeting handshake, and I really think that reflex saved my life because it took my brain a few seconds to register that someone was trying to pull me off the bus. A tall man in a white tank top, blue jeans, and white tennis shoes had come out of the back of the bus, grabbed my arm, and tried to drag me off the bus. He had pulled me down to the second step before I even understood what was going on, and I was just barely still hanging onto the pole. The arm he was grabbing had my purse on it, and I actually tried to shake my purse down to him so he'd let go, but he had no interest in my purse. I had just about started calling for help when I felt someone grab my waist and pull me back up towards the bus. The man trying to pull me down must have realized that he couldn't get me without this dragging out longer than he expected, so he finally gave up and ran off. The doors shut, and I vaguely remember hearing the man who saved me say something along the lines of, "You would die in that neighborhood," and I had apparently gone into some kind of shock because I only remember saying, "Oh." I don't even remember thanking him. I didn't say anything to the driver. I didn't contact the police like I should have. I don't even remember my shift at that other location. I don't remember the ride home. It was like I was numb. It wasn't until I was home, showered, and ready for bed that I sat on the edge of my bed and thought, I almost got kidnapped.